We've all seen it, that classic movie moment, Bruce Lee, totally outnumbered but effortlessly taking down a dozen guys. But could the legend actually pull that off in real life? Could he face 5 trained fighters at once and be the last one standing? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Today, we're not talking about movie magic. We're going to be detectives, digging into the few real-world fights that actually shaped Bruce Lee. From secret rooftop rumbles to his most legendary duel, we are separating the hard facts from the Hollywood fiction to find the truth. The legend of Bruce Lee is huge. He's the unbeatable warrior, the wise master, the guy who moved like lightning. But behind the movie star was a real person, a martial artist who was absolutely obsessed with the reality of combat. To get to the truth, we have to ignore the movies and look at the fights. The messy, controversial, and sometimes brutal scraps that built the man, not the myth. This isn't about tearing down a hero or just blindly worshiping one. It's an investigation. We're going to examine the evidence from his handful of documented fights, one by one, to figure out what he could really do. Before he was a global icon, Bruce Lee was a teenager in 1950s Hong Kong, and he fought a lot. As a student of the Wing Chun master Ip Man, Lee was part of a culture where rival kung fu schools were always testing each other. These weren't sanctioned matches, they were bare-knuckle street fights, often on rooftops to stay clear of the police. These brawls were his first real test lab. One popular story tells of a fight where Lee faced a rival from a Choi Lee Fut school. According to the account, Lee got a black eye right away but adapted, closing the distance and unleashing a storm of Wing Chun chain punches that knocked his opponent out, even taking out a tooth. While stories like this are common, hard verification is sparse. What we do know is that these chaotic encounters taught him a vital lesson. Traditional styles were a starting point, but real combat was messy and unpredictable. He wasn't just a student of theory, he was a practitioner of real, dangerous fighting from a young age. In 1958, an 18-year-old Bruce Lee stepped into a formal boxing ring to compete in an inter-school tournament. It was a completely different world from the lawless rooftops. He went up against the previous year's champion, Gary Elms. Using his Wing Chun adapted for boxing gloves, Lee won by a unanimous decision. But he wasn't happy about it. He had won on points, but the boxing rules and gloves felt restrictive. He felt his punching power wasn't as decisive as it should be. This frustration with the limits of a single style was a turning point. It lit a fire in him to develop truly devastating power and planted the seeds for what would become Jeet Kune Do, a combat philosophy free from rigid styles. No fight is more central to the Bruce Lee legend than his 1964 duel with Wong Jack Man in Oakland, California. The reason for the fight is debated. The popular story is that Lee was challenged for teaching martial arts to non-Chinese students. Wong Jack Man, a master of Northern Shaolin and other styles, denied this was the reason, stating Lee had issued an open challenge to the San Francisco martial arts community. Accounts of the fight itself are fiercely contested. Bruce's wife Linda Lee claimed it was a dominant 3-minute victory where Lee chased Wong down and forced him to submit. However, Wong Jack Man and another witness, William Chen, told a different story. They claimed the fight was a much longer, 25-minute affair that was closer to a draw, with Lee becoming surprisingly winded. Wong's side also maintained that Lee fought dirty, attempting eye pokes. But the most important outcome isn't who won, it's what Lee learned. By his own admission, the fight took too long and exposed his physical conditioning. He realized his Wing Chun wasn't enough against an opponent who wouldn't stand and trade blows. This perceived failure was the true catalyst for creating Jeet Kune Do, forcing him to break down everything he knew and rebuild it all based on one thing: brutal efficiency. As Bruce Lee's fame exploded, so did the number of people wanting to test him. On the set of Enter the Dragon, which used hundreds of extras, some of whom were actual local gang members, challenges were bound to happen. Linda Lee and actor Bolo Yeung both recounted incidents where extras challenged Lee between takes. By all accounts, these confrontations were short, with Lee quickly proving his skills without causing serious harm, showing his abilities were the real deal. Beyond these anecdotes, we have sparring footage, most famously from the 1967 Long Beach International Karate Championships. It's crucial to understand this was a demonstration with his student Ted Wong. Using protective gear, it was not a real fight. Still, it's incredibly revealing. The footage shows his phenomenal speed, his signature interception method of stopping an attack before it even starts, and his blending of techniques. Some analysts point to potential openings, like his low lead hand, but the display of his innovative principles in motion is undeniable. So what's the verdict from all this evidence? The rooftop fights show a young, tough brawler who is comfortable with real violence. The boxing match shows a relentless drive to evolve past any limitation. The Wong Jack Man duel was the wake-up call that forced him to invent his own philosophy. And the on-set stories and sparring footage show a master at his peak, applying those principles under pressure. There's zero evidence Bruce Lee ever fought multiple opponents at once in a real-world setting. That is pure movie fantasy. His real fights were one-on-one. They showed incredible speed, power, and a brilliant mind. But they also revealed weaknesses, like his stamina in a prolonged fight like the one with Wong Jack Man. The question of could he beat 5 guys is speculation. Combat experts agree that fighting multiple trained attackers is a scenario where survival means escaping, not winning. And here we are at the shocking truth. The truth isn't that Bruce Lee could have beaten 5 trained fighters. The shocking truth is that he knew he couldn't and would have been the first one to tell you it was a stupid idea. His entire philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, is built on efficiency, directness, and adapting to what's real. He openly hated the fantasy portrayals of fighting, stressing that a real fight is about one thing: survival. The question of whether he could beat 5 men is the wrong question. It's a question from his movies, not his life. The real fights he had weren't about building a myth of invincibility. They were experiments. Every punch, every struggle, every moment of frustration was just more data he used to create a more honest and effective way to fight. In the end, while the image of Bruce Lee single-handedly wiping out a crowd is an awesome movie fantasy, the reality is far more impressive. He wasn't a superhero. He was a relentless innovator who used real combat as his laboratory. The few fights we know about prove he was not only willing to fight, but more importantly, he was willing to learn from them. He bled, he got tired, and he got frustrated. And from those all-too-human moments, he created a revolution in martial arts that still shapes fighters today. His real legacy isn't some mythical, undefeated record. It's Jeet Kune Do, the art of the intercepting fist, and the powerful idea that the only truth in combat is found in reality, not fantasy. What do you think? How would Bruce Lee's skills hold up in today's world of MMA? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives that separate martial arts fact from fiction, be sure to like and subscribe.